You never think it'll be your own sister. Not really. You might joke about it, sure. Roll your eyes when someone talks about betrayal and say something dumb like, "God, I'd kill him if he ever touched her." But you never think that kind of thing will actually happen to you. Until it does. And when it does, the first thing that shatters isn't the marriage. It's the memory of who you thought your sister was. My name is Lauren. I was married for 8 years. I had a sister named Brooke. And I don't know which of them betrayed me worse. It started subtle. It always does, doesn't it? Small things you don't catch until later. A laugh that lingers too long. A change in how they speak around each other, like they've built this shared, secret world where you're just the extra. I saw it happening in front of me. And like a fool, I called it closeness. At the time, I thought it was nice. Sweet, even. My husband Mark always got along well with my family. That was something I used to be proud of. They'd banter in the kitchen while I set the table. Brooke would tease him about his terrible poker face. He'd pretend to act wounded. I thought it was harmless. You know, it's funny. Looking back, the day it started unraveling was the same day I had food poisoning. Ridiculous, right? I was curled up in bed, pale and shaking, when I heard them downstairs. Laughing. Drinking wine. Watching something on the TV loud enough for me to hear from the bathroom floor. That was the first time something felt off. Like I was the ghost in my own house. I chalked it up to being sick. The world always feels sinister when you're nauseous and weak. So I told myself they were just keeping each other company. I told myself a lot of things. 3 weeks later, I found a pair of earrings under our couch. Delicate little gold ones, not mine. I knew they were Brooke's. She had this obsession with tiny, dainty jewelry. Said big hoops made her feel like she was pretending to be someone she wasn't. I asked her if she lost them. She smiled, that same crooked little grin she's had since we were kids, and said, "Oh God, thanks. I thought I left them at yoga." Yoga. She hadn't gone to yoga in over a year. Still, I said nothing. Because that's what you do when the idea of the truth is worse than the lie. You protect the illusion a little longer. You tuck it in and smooth its sheets and hope to God it holds together just a few more days. Until it can't. That's how this story starts. And trust me, it only gets worse. The day I found out for sure was unremarkable in every other way. Just a Tuesday. Mark left for work early. Brooke was supposedly heading to a friend's bridal shower an hour out of town. I had the house to myself. I did laundry. Cleaned the grout in the kitchen. I remember scrubbing so hard my knuckles split, that thin line of red opening up like a tiny mouth on my hand. That detail stuck with me for some reason. It was noon when I heard a noise upstairs. Not a crash. Not anything obvious. Just the soft creak of our bedroom door. Mark wasn't supposed to be home. Brooke had already left. And yet, there were 2 people upstairs. I can't describe what it feels like to walk up those stairs when you know what you're going to find, not think, but know. It's like dragging your own body toward the guillotine. My legs went numb halfway up. My hands shook so hard I had to grip the banister like I was 75. When I opened the door, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't say anything at all. Mark was standing there, shirtless, his belt still half undone. Brooke sat on the edge of the bed, her expression somewhere between shock and indignation, like I was the one interrupting something sacred. Neither of them spoke. I think they expected me to. But I just stared at them for a full 30 seconds. That's how long it took for the image to burn itself into me, like the smell of fire on your clothes after a building goes down. You can wash everything, but it still lingers. I turned around and walked out. That was it. It wasn't until the next morning that Brooke texted me. Not an apology. Not even a phone call. Just a message that read, "Can we talk? It's not what you think." I stared at it for a full hour before I blocked her. Because it was what I thought. And worse, she didn't even understand why it was wrong. Mark tried to call, of course. Left voicemails about mistakes and weak moments. Said I'd pushed him away and he never meant to hurt me. All the greatest hits. But I couldn't get past Brooke. My sister. We shared a room for 16 years. We wore matching Christmas pajamas until college. She held my hand when I miscarried the year before. And still, she did this. When I finally confronted her, a week later, she said she didn't plan it. She said it just happened. She said, "You don't understand what it's like to be second best your whole life." Second best. That's what she said to me, the woman whose husband she slept with, as if she were the victim. It was in that moment I realized something that still haunts me. She didn't think she had done anything wrong. Not really. To her, this wasn't betrayal. It was some twisted act of reclamation. Of equality. She thought she was taking back something she'd been denied. As if Mark was a resource I'd hoarded too long. That's when the grief turned to something colder. Because I wasn't just mourning a marriage. I was mourning a sister I never really had. You know what's worse than being betrayed? Being told it was somehow your fault. That's where Mark landed a few weeks after I found them. Once the dust settled, once the shock wore off and reality took its place, he started rewriting the narrative. Slowly. Strategically. Like someone erasing pencil lines and redrawing them in ink. He told his friends I had emotionally checked out years ago. He told my parents we'd been drifting apart. And the cherry on top, he told Brooke that I'd never really loved him the way she did. I saw the texts. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. After everything, I still had his iPad, synced to our old shared account. I opened it one night, not even thinking, and there it was. Their entire thread. Months of messages. He called her B. Said she was his safe space. Said he wished they hadn't waited so long to be honest about their connection. And Brooke? She lapped it up. God, she glowed under the validation. She wrote things like, "I always knew we were supposed to find our way back to each other, and I'm tired of hiding. She'll never understand us." Us. Like they were Romeo and Juliet, not two grown adults screwing in someone else's bed. I wanted to throw the iPad against the wall. Smash it into pieces. But I didn't. Instead, I put it face down on the kitchen counter and sat there in the dark, trying to figure out when I stopped being a person and became a plot device in someone else's story. It's funny how the people who betray you can't just admit it. They need to reshape reality until it fits something they can live with. Something noble. Something justifiable. And if that means making you out to be the villain? So be it. Mark needed to believe I had failed him first. That I had withheld something vital. That Brooke wasn't a choice, she was a consequence. But none of that held up when you looked closely. Because I did love him. I was there every single time he needed me, when his dad died, when he lost his job, when he couldn't sleep for weeks on end and I stayed up with him just so he didn't feel alone. But memory is elastic when you're desperate to forgive yourself. Brooke, on the other hand, she clung to the story like it was a lifeline. That she was the brave one. The one who dared to love fully. The one who wouldn't settle for scraps. It didn't matter that those scraps were mine. A month later, Brooke showed up at my door. She looked tired. Still beautiful, she always was, but in that strained, unraveling way. Like her body hadn't caught up to her choices yet. I didn't want to let her in. I should have slammed the door in her face. But I didn't. Some part of me still needed to understand. So I let her in. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. The same one she used to help me paint when we bought this house. She said she was sorry. But she said it like someone repeating lines they'd practiced in the mirror. Not because she meant it, but because she thought it was time. I didn't want to hurt you, she said. I laughed. Couldn't help it. It came out dry and bitter, like chewing aspirin. She looked wounded, like I was the one being unfair. I didn't plan it, she said again. It just happened. As if that excused everything. As if love was a flood she couldn't hold back, and I was just collateral damage. Then she said something that changed everything. You always had everything. The house. The career. The husband. I just wanted to know what that felt like. It wasn't said with venom. It was worse than that. She said it with sincerity. Like she genuinely didn't see what she'd done wrong. That's when I knew. She didn't feel guilt. She felt justified. In her mind, she hadn't betrayed me. She had reclaimed something. Balanced the scales. Closed the gap between us in the most selfish, twisted way she could. That was the last conversation we ever had. I walked her to the door. Told her I hoped she found what she was looking for. She blinked, like she didn't understand. She still doesn't. And maybe she never will. After Brooke left, I didn't cry. I thought I would. I'd cried over smaller things before, a cruel email, a missed birthday, a broken wine glass that used to belong to my mother. But not this. This didn't bring tears. It brought silence. That heavy, unmovable kind of silence that feels like insulation. Like your body's gone into some kind of emotional shock. I moved through those days like I was underwater, not drowning, just suspended. And the people around me? They didn't know what to do with me. My parents called, eventually. Not right away. I think they didn't want to choose sides, which is such a ridiculous idea, considering one of their daughters slept with the other's husband. But that's family, isn't it? Always looking for the middle ground, even when there shouldn't be one. My mother said things like, Brooke made a mistake. My father said, we raised you girls better than this. And I remember thinking, no. You didn't. You raised us to compete. You raised us to measure our worth in approval. You made Brooke the princess, and you made me the soldier. And the moment she wanted something I had, she didn't think twice about taking it. But I didn't say any of that. Because what was the point? They weren't ready to hear it. I didn't go to Thanksgiving that year. Or Christmas. My mother left long voicemails about forgiveness and family bonds. My father sent an email with a subject line that just read, please come home. I didn't open it. Because the truth is, home isn't where people are waiting. It's where people understand. And none of them did. They were more concerned about the family looking intact than actually being intact. I could have lit myself on fire in the middle of that dinner table, and someone would have asked me to pass the potatoes. So I stayed alone. And it was better that way. Not easier. But cleaner. Mark sent a letter, 5 months later. A real one. Handwritten. Like that somehow made it more meaningful. He used to make fun of people who wrote letters, called it emotionally manipulative stationery. I guess that's what this was. It arrived on a Tuesday. I remember because I almost threw it out with the junk mail. But then I saw the handwriting. His sharp angles. His neat little slants. And I knew before I even opened it that it would be the same sad song in a different key. He wrote about regret. About therapy. About how he hadn't seen how much I was giving, not until it was too late. He said Brooke and he had ended things. That it never felt right once I was gone. He called me his home. He said he missed the smell of my hair. My playlists. The way I always folded his socks in pairs, even when I was mad at him. And it was all very poetic. Thoughtful. Measured. But the truth? It didn't move me. Because when someone lights your life on fire, you don't care how nicely they describe the smoke. I didn't write back. What could I say? I wasn't angry anymore. I think that was the most surprising part. I'd moved past that. Past the heartbreak. Past the rage. What I felt was deeper. Quieter. A kind of grief that didn't want revenge, it just wanted distance. Some part of me did wonder, briefly, what he thought was going to happen. That I'd show up at his door crying, thanking him for realizing it too late? He never understood me. Not really. If he had, he'd have known the one thing I could never come back from was being made a fool. You don't rebuild from that. You walk away. And you never, ever look back. It's been over a year now. 12 months of small steps. New routines. Dull mornings and quiet victories. I'm not healed, that word feels dishonest, but I'm no longer waiting for the pain to leave. It's part of me now, folded into who I am like an old scar. I don't touch it every day, but I know it's there. People like to ask if I'm seeing someone new. As if the answer to betrayal is replacement. I usually just smile and change the subject. I've dated a little, the dinner, drinks, a walk by the lake, but nothing serious. Nothing with roots. I'm not afraid of love. I'm just not eager to dig another hole in the same ground. I see Brooke sometimes. Not in person. God no. But she shows up in family photos, tagged by mutual friends. She still wears her hair the same. Still smiles like nothing ever happened. Sometimes I wonder if she even thinks about it, if it wakes her up at night, or if she's tucked it away in some drawer labeled complicated decisions. Last I heard, she moved in with a new guy. Not Mark. Apparently that ended quietly, sometime after I stopped responding to either of them. No big blowout. Just silence. The way a flame dies when it runs out of oxygen. I guess even stolen things lose their shine eventually. Mark reached out one more time. A short email. Just 4 lines. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope you're okay. You didn't deserve any of it. I see that now. I didn't respond. Because he wasn't talking to me. He was talking to the version of me he imagines still cares what he thinks. But she's gone. She left the day I walked out of our bedroom and never looked back. I wish I could tell you I got some grand sense of justice. That karma came swiftly, and the universe punished them both. But life isn't tidy like that. Most of the time, people get away with things. They move on. They rewrite the story so it fits their conscience. And you? You learn to live with the burn. You learn how to smile without flinching. You learn that survival doesn't always look like strength, sometimes it just looks like quiet. Not forgiveness. Not forgetting. Just peace. The kind you don't beg for. The kind you build yourself. One morning, one boundary, one deep breath at a time.